morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be with us on an early, midday, or late Saturday afternoon, depending on where you are. And thank you, SchoolRubric, for having me. Today, we're going to talk about practical tips and the process that led my grade level, kindergarten, up to building a learning guide that works for parents. And while I do teach kindergarten currently, the process will be information that's beneficial no matter what grade you teach or what capacity you're holding in education. So what have we learned with remote learning and COVID-19 and shelter in place? So join me as we continue to have this conversation. Wallace did a great introduction, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but the podcast Intelligogy is available on every platform, so download and subscribe. This morning I'll be uploading my episode with Taylor Armstrong, which was an amazing episode. Many ways you can get in contact with me. Again, Wallace hit on all of those. Operation Teacher Relief thrives on its YouTube channel. There's a playlist and a subscriptions tab that just opens up a world of professional development, entertainment for the littles, and education. So what we're going to talk about today, here in Mansfield, Texas, in the state of Texas, I guess you could say, we are actually in week 6 of sheltering in place, but the first week of my week 6 does include our spring break, but we knew what was going to happen. We knew we would not be returning to school. So that's why I went ahead and included spring break, because wheels were already turning, decisions were already being made as we were on spring break. We're going to talk about the emotions that come along with that, the considerations that have to be made and thought through as we transition rapidly to shelter in place, the challenges that come along with that, and then finally, the thing I'm most excited about after all of that, what's working. So let's talk about the shock factor. We all know what we experienced when we learned that this is really happening. It's here, it's on my front doorstep. So there was this huge phase of a shock factor, and I believe for many of us, that shock factor came with grief, a little bit of confusion, angst, anxiety. I know I didn't sleep at night, a lot of nights. And most importantly, the realization that we would not see our kids, that was heartbreaking for many of us. And then there were considerations for our own personal lives, because we were all affected. We have to take care of our family. Do the parents have jobs? Kids in college? What about if you're taking care of the elderly? So many things come into play as we're all transitioning. And then, of course, as educators, while we're dealing with our own personal situations, we also still have to move forward with teaching. So there's the dynamic of the team that you serve on, and understanding that everybody is in a different place. Everybody has their own set of family situations that they're trying to navigate and deal with. And it's a really delicate process, and trying to figure out the balance in what's too soon and trying to move forward, and conversations that need to be had, and just really trying to support each other as best we can, but being considerate at the same time. And then with all of that, there's the new reality, like we're here and we can't just stay stuck in shock. We have to move forward. So that being said, when we start moving forward, there's a lot of things to consider. And I know last week in the presentation I was fortunate enough to sit in, there were several groups and presenters who were further ahead in the process than I am, and I learned a lot from them. So I know some of you may be a little bit behind me, so hopefully the things we're about to share will really help you. Some of the thoughts you have to think about are, first and foremost, meeting the basic needs of the kids in this remote learning environment. It's not about education first. It's about making sure they are fed, that they are safe. And then you transition to, do they have the technological capacity to function in a remote learning environment? Who needs devices? Who needs paper-based activities? Are we able to reach every parent? And if not, what do we do? So all of those decisions come into play. making sure that we reach every student in this time, it's critical. It's a challenge, and you have to kind of be creative and patient and very empathetic, because these kids that we are trying to reach, we have to remember they have parents who are going through the same shock factors that we are. Now, to help with all of that, how can we help students have a sense of normalcy? Normalcy is really, really big to me and important. And I feel like it's the key to making the shelter in place with COVID-19 as smooth and comfortable as possible. So reminding students of those memorable experiences that you've had in class. I shared a funny with my class the other day, and the feedback I got from parents was amazing, that the kids smiled and they laughed and they started telling their parents about those experiences. And then as you move forward in remote learning, we found on my team that it is a brilliant idea to create a weekly connection. And I'm not talking about your normal, what you teach every week, something that's fun and engaging, and it gets the kids an opportunity to see each other, and they can just forget about their present situation right now. So what does that look like? For us, we run a Goosechase game on Fridays, end of every week. And it's not just my class, it's 6 classes playing a Goosechase game together. And if you don't know what Goosechase is, it's this mission-oriented scavenger hunt, high energy, fast-paced, and it's amazing what you see the kids doing. And the coolest thing about it is they can see what their friends are posting in real time. So just figure out a great, strong, positive, fun, energetic way for the kids to connect each week. And then the mental health, if you're providing them with good, memorable experiences, if you're having fun with them even while teaching, you're also fertilizing that mental health and making sure they're okay. But also with mental health, be mindful and considerate when we send emails. I know we take grades and grades are important, but what do you want? Think of us as parents. What do we want the first thing? What do we want our eyes to lay on the screen when we read an email? What's the last thing we want to see when we read an email? So be very compassionate, check on them. I just sent an email to my parents yesterday, and I actually asked them, please let me know if there's something I'm missing, because we think we're covering all the bases, we think we're doing best practices, but it may not be what the family needs. So don't be afraid to ask, what can I do differently? What can I do better? Challenges. I know I kind of hit on some of those already, but my goodness, I think about our families. We have families who have lost jobs. We have families who parents are in the medical profession. They're in law enforcement. They work in the grocery store sector, in restaurants. People are dealing with real serious life issues on the front lines. Family members, some unfortunately have come down with COVID-19. So there's this huge consideration of balance and understanding when we need to back off. So with that, one thing we learned when I asked myself, what's too much? What's not enough communication? On the front end, of course, our school district, and I work in an amazing school district in Mansfield, but our school district had so much information to share with educators. We were getting a lot of emails, and in turn, we had to share a lot of information with parents. So everyone was on information overload. And that kind of goes with that shock factor. Like, we have to hurry up and transition and make sure everybody has bandwidth and all of those things. But then once you do that, you realize, okay, we're here. Let's figure out what the wisest process is going forward. So one thing we've done as a district, really as a campus, is we've streamlined our communication with parents, and we send out one email on Fridays with everything we need. All the learning information is in one document in a newsletter, and we even took that a step further. Every grade level's newsletters are on our school's website. So it's this one-stop shop resource. We're not asking parents to go and access all of these different modes of communication. Now, when we start thinking about assignments, we had to figure out, how is that going to work? And our district provided us a framework. And the first couple of weeks, they really gave us the meat to just go ahead and share this out. But then it got to a point when we kind of got in our groove that we had to start thinking, how are we going to frame our learning for our kids? And what we came up with was something that we're really proud of. But before I really talk about it, I want to highlight the document we created. It's called a learning guide. And we wanted something that was cross-curricular, that covered all content areas, one document. And since this is a primary grade, and I really think this is a good practice for no matter what grade you teach, to streamline the technology. Are we asking them to go to Seesaw, Goosechase, Flipgrid, Google Classroom, and all of these logins and passwords? Streamline. How can you maximize and leverage one, maybe two vehicles at most, but not having them go all over the place? And this learning guide that we created, there's something for everyone. Are you visual? Do you like to write? We met every student's needs. In primary grades, they're kind of on a rainbow, if you will. Some are still learning letters and sounds. Some are actually reading chapter books. So our learning guide meets every single student's needs. And we also provided relevant resources, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I have to give credit to our contributors, and some of them are here with us today. The contributors to the learning guide for writing is Kalina Kelly, math is Marisa Hawkins, and science is Renee Simpkins. And we have other teammates who help a lot with Goosechase and really going through the learning guide with a keen eye to see what we've missed or if we need to add anything. And that's Lindsay Snyder and Rosie Oceanis. So Ryan, can you click on the learning guide and we'll just kind of skim through it very quickly? So this is our learning guide, and we have two versions, extended and condensed. And we have scripting. This is the extended document, and there's extensive scripting and a lot of support for the parent. So for instance, we were teaching digraphs. A lot of parents don't know what a digraph is. Well, we give scripting for that. We embedded a lot of videos, and each week I actually record opening lessons for the week so the parents and the students can sit down and watch that. We have challenges, we have play-based learning, we have extension and challenge. We also have research included every week. So you see right now where Ryan is, on day 3, they can go to Pebble Go and do some research, and we ask some questions that evidence that they've gone there. What you see highlighted in yellow, that's our accountability piece. We ask that parents and students select one activity from each content area and upload that into Seesaw. So this document has proven to be highly effective, a lot of support, and really meets every learner's needs. We have in this one document anything from simple 2 to 3 sentences all the way up to chapter books. So let's continue. And when we talk about the learning guide, we know we offered parents 2 versions, and I talked about the extended version. The condensed version is much shorter. It doesn't offer the scripting if a parent kind of has that working knowledge and doesn't want to sift through all of that information. They still have the meat and they still know what they need to cover. And the other thing I didn't mention in the document, we actually created a tutorial for the learning guide. And even though you saw 3 columns, we've broken it up into day 1, day 2, day 3. In the tutorial, we tell parents, this is a framework. Do what works for you. You may want to do 2 days of reading and then the rest, math and science. You may want to spread that content out over 5 days. Do what works for you. And friends, when I tell you the feedback that we've gotten from having a document that has a lot of support, but then gives parents so much flexibility and streamlines the modes that they have to access. And when we are asking them to go to Pebble Go, we've embedded the link, we have the username and password, everything is in one document. So the feedback we've gotten has just been amazing. Some parents really, really love the extended version. Another parent asked me to call and said, this is too much. I don't know what to do. And I said, hang on just a second. I was making a tutorial video and I said, check this out. And then if you have any questions, let me know. She said, no, I'm good. This is perfect. This is just what I needed. I feel like a rock star now. So just being able to think forward and provide parents with every single resource that you can possibly think they need. You're troubleshooting for them in advance. They are stressed, they are overwhelmed, and it's our job to support them and make learning easy for them. This should not be difficult. So just be forward thinking in how you support your parents. And lastly, thank you for being here with me. And I certainly hope that this quick overview of where we started and where we are now helps encourage you, inspires you, gives you some ideas. If you have questions for me, please reach out, Traci at tracibrowder.com, or any other ways. I'm very, very active, especially on Twitter. So if you send me a message there, I will definitely get it. I wanted to tell you real quickly, I talked about making connections and building relationships. That's actually my driveway. And I'm constantly putting messages on my driveway. I'm so blessed to live where I teach. And so parents are always coming by and reading the messages and leaving me precious cards and cinnamon rolls and all sorts of yummy things on my doorstep. So building those relationships in a time like this, it's so important. And you're making memories for your kids, even in a difficult situation. Thank you, SchoolRubric, for this time. And we'll turn it over to Nicole.
Yeah, before we turn it over to Nicole, I know, Tina, you had a question about, so I'm just going to, maybe if you can kind of unmute. And
Good morning, Traci. Just wondering, do you mind if we share that with colleagues? And just, again, also that note that we create those visual instructions or tutorial in order for them to understand the basic learning guide itself or instruction.
Absolutely. In fact, Wallace and Ryan, I believe you're sharing the documents at the end. Is that correct?
Yeah. We linked to the Google Doc in the chat. So you can just go to the chat, folks, and you can access the document. And then we'll also include the presentation. So we're recording this and making this into a YouTube video. We'll post it on our channel. And then in the description section, we'll also have this presentation. And we'll also post this on the forums on our website.
I know there was one other question about from Christy Fincher about just the idea of the Goosechase idea. So maybe you could just quickly, and I'm a little curious about this, could you just maybe give like a short explanation of what the Goosechase idea is?
Absolutely. Goosechase is a platform, and on their website, they actually call it missions. It's very, very simple. In fact, I'm going to do a tutorial probably today. You set up your school district email account, and you just create simple questions like, for instance, find something that rhymes with cat, or exhibit 2 times 2, for instance. So you give them these quick missions, and you see them running around the house. But the coolest thing is you can set it up where kids, when they respond, they can upload either a photo or a video. And I've been setting it to photo and video a lot because that gives the other kids an opportunity to interact. And it's a game feed. You actually see this game feed and you're running the game. So the best part about it is you get to comment on the game in real time.
That's great. Cool. Maybe it would be helpful, a few minutes later as Nicole's presenting, or right before, if you could type the website in the chat, that might be helpful to give folks that resource so they know where to go. And maybe, Traci, just one more question that I'm personally interested in, others maybe as well. You talk a lot about the learning guide, and I know that you and your colleagues spent a lot of time, developing that learning guide. What kind of use do you see, or how do you see the learning guide evolving at some point in time when kids are back in school?
That's a wonderful question, Wallace. And I am a forward thinker, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And not just even in primary grades, in high school, like the new ways to do math and the new ways to do things. I know I connect with every parent when I say, what is this? How do you do this? We're not going to go back to the old normal. We're going back to a new normal where it used to be a cliche term that parents are our partners. Parents are our partners now on a completely different level. When we return, they are going to expect to be able to have supports in hand to teach their kids. I don't think many parents are going to take the back seat again and just let us teach. We're going to be partner teaching going forward.